you're fired." The words hit before the mop even touched the floor. The poor black teenage boy froze. For a second he thought he heard wrong. It was his first day, his first hour, his first real job. And he was already being thrown out. What? He stammered. The manager didn't even look at him properly. "I said you're fired. Drop the mop and get out." A few workers nearby turned their heads, then smirked. One of them laughed quietly. Didn't even last an hour. The boy's fingers tightened around the mop handle. His name was Darius Brooks, 17 years old, wearing a loose grey cleaning uniform that didn't fit right, sleeves slightly rolled, shoes worn thin at the bottom, but polished like they mattered. Because to him they did. Everything today mattered. Because last night his mother had coughed so hard she couldn't stand. Because the medicine bottle was empty. Because the rent was late. Because this job was supposed to fix something. "Sir, I didn't do anything," Darius said quietly. The manager, Mr. Collins, finally turned. Sharp face, cold eyes. The kind of man who enjoyed authority more than responsibility. "You spilled cleaning solution in the wrong section. It was an accident. Excuses. It was my first day." "Exactly. And you already messed up." A couple of workers chuckled again. Darius felt the heat rise to his face. Humiliation. Fast. Heavy. Public. "I can fix it," he said quickly. "Just give me a chance." "You had your chance. I just started, and you just ended." The words landed like a door slamming shut. Darius swallowed hard. He looked down at the floor. Shiny. Perfect. Cleaner than anything in his life. And somehow still not enough. "Please," he said, and hated how that word sounded. "I need this job." Mr. Collins stepped closer, lowered his voice just enough to sound cruel instead of loud. "People like you always say that." Darius looked up. "What does that mean?" "It means I've seen this before." The manager gestured toward the exit. "Lazy. Careless. Always begging for another chance." "I'm not lazy." "Then prove it somewhere else." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. The other workers stopped pretending not to listen. Darius gripped the mop tighter. "My mum is sick," he said. "That should have meant something." "It didn't." Mr. Collins shrugged. "Then maybe you should have been more careful." Silence. Then security. The word echoed louder than it should have. Two guards approached. Fast. Like they'd been waiting. Darius stepped back instinctively. "I'm not stealing anything." "Company policy," one guard said. "For what?" "For removal." They grabbed his arm. Not violently, but firmly enough to make a point. Darius pulled slightly. "Let go. Don't make this harder. I just need the job. Not here." The other workers watched, some amused, some uncomfortable, none stepping forward. Because in places like this, power speaks louder than truth. Darius felt something inside him break quietly. Not anger. Not yet. Something softer. Hope. As they began dragging him toward the lobby, his mop fell and clattered across the polished floor. The sound echoed. No one picked it up. The lobby of Sterling Corporate Tower was massive. Glass walls, marble floors, bright lights that made everything look perfect, except people like Darius. He stumbled as security pushed him forward. "Keep moving." "I can walk." "Then walk faster." The front desk receptionist glanced up, recognized the situation instantly, and looked away. Because scenes like this were not new. A poor worker. A quick dismissal. A quiet exit. Everything neat. Everything controlled. Darius's heart pounded. His mind raced. What was he going to tell his mother? That he failed. That he couldn't even last one day. That the medicine would have to wait. Again. His chest tightened. No, this can't be it," he muttered. The guard pushed him again. "It is." Then, the elevator doors opened. Silently. Smoothly. Expensively. And everything changed. A man stepped out. Tall. Calm, dressed in a navy suit that looked like it belonged in magazines, silver at the temples, sharp eyes, presence that didn't need to announce itself. Everyone in the lobby felt it instantly. Conversations stopped, staff straightened, even the guards slowed down. Because this wasn't just anyone. This was Edward Sterling, the white billionaire owner of the entire company. The man whose name was on the building. The man who built everything Darius was being thrown out of. He walked forward calmly. Not rushing, not reacting, just observing. Then his eyes landed on the scene. A poor black boy, being dragged, uniform wrinkled, face tense, name tag slightly crooked on his chest. Edward stopped. Not fully, just enough. Something caught his attention. Something small. Something specific. His eyes narrowed slightly. Stop. The word wasn't loud, but it cut through the entire lobby. The guards froze instantly. Darius blinked, confused. The manager turned quickly. "Sir, it's just a Edward raised his hand. Silence. He stepped closer. slow, measured, like each step mattered. His eyes never left the boy. Darius felt it. That stare, different from the others, not mocking, not dismissive, something else, something heavy. Edward stopped directly in front of him. For a moment no one spoke. Then the billionaire looked down at the name tag on Darius's chest. Brooks. Everything changed. The color drained from Edward's face, his breathing slowed, then stopped for a second. The lobby went completely silent. Even the air felt frozen. The guards looked at each other. The manager shifted nervously. Darius frowned. What? Edward's hand trembled slightly, barely noticeable, but real. He looked up at the boy's face again. Studied him. The eyes, the jawline, the expression. Something familiar, something impossible. He whispered, almost to himself, Brooks? Darius pulled slightly from the guard's grip. That's my name. Edward took one step back, like the ground had shifted. The manager quickly stepped forward. Sir, he's just a new cleaner. Made a mistake. So Quiet. Edward's voice was different now. Not calm, not controlled, something deeper. He looked at the guards. Let him go. They hesitated for half a second, then released Darius immediately. The entire lobby watched, confused, curious, silent. Darius rubbed his arm, still not understanding. Why? Edward didn't answer immediately. He stepped closer again, closer than a billionaire should ever stand to a fired cleaner, and asked one question. Low, shaking, careful. What is your mother's name? Darius blinked. What? Edward's voice tightened. Your mother. A pause. Then what is her name? Darius hesitated. Something felt strange, off, but he answered anyway. Lena. Edward Sterling went completely still, like time had stopped. Then slowly, very slowly, his eyes filled with something no one in that building had ever seen before. Shock, regret, pain, and something even deeper. He whispered, No, that's not possible. Darius frowned. What's not possible? Edward looked at him like he was seeing the past standing in front of him. Alive, breathing, real. Then the billionaire said the words that changed everything. He's not fired. A pause, then louder, stronger, clear enough for the entire building to hear. He's my son. Asterisk, asterisk. The lobby exploded into silence. No one moved, no one spoke, no one even breathed properly. Darius stared at him, heart pounding, mind blank. What? The manager looked like he might collapse. The guards stepped back instantly. The receptionist stood up. Even the air felt heavier. Because seconds ago, he was just a poor boy. Fired. Humiliated. Nothing. And now, the richest man in the building was calling him family. Darius took a step back, eyes locked on Edward, voice shaking. You're lying. Edward didn't respond immediately. Because the truth was much worse than a lie. And he knew. This was only the beginning. The lobby stayed frozen long after the words were spoken. Mouths on my toad. No one moved. No one coughed. No one even pretended to type at the front desk. Because a moment earlier, Darius Brooks had been nothing more than a fired cleaner dragged across polished marble. Now the richest man in the building had just claimed him in front of everyone. Darius stared at Edward Sterling like the man had lost his mind. You're lying. His voice shook. Not from fear, from anger, from confusion, from years of never having enough space in life for surprises this large. Edward didn't answer immediately. He looked at the boy's face again, every second revealing more. The brow line, the eyes, the way he stood defensive even while hurting. Lena's pride, his jaw. Time had done cruel mathematics. The manager, Mr. Collins, found his voice first. Sir, with respect, this is impossible. Edward turned slowly. The entire lobby felt colder. Impossible, Mr. Collins swallowed. I mean, surely there must be some misunderstanding. Edward stepped toward him. No misunderstanding. Then lower. Only failures. Mr. Collins backed up instantly. The guards dropped their hands from Darius as if touching him now might cost careers. It probably would. Darius rubbed his wrists and looked between them all. This is crazy. Edward faced him again. No, he said quietly. Crazy was losing 16 years. Darius clenched his jaw. I don't know you. You should have. That's not an answer. No, Edward admitted. It's a regret. Again with the clean truth. Again with answers that hurt more because they didn't hide. Darius hated that. Because lies are easier to fight. Edward turned toward the receptionist. Clear conference room A. She nodded instantly. Then toward security. No one enters unless I say so. Then to Darius. Come with me. Darius didn't move. You don't get to order me. Edward paused. Corrected himself. Please. The entire lobby watched that word hit the floor. A billionaire asking politely. Darius crossed his arms. I came for a paycheck. You'll get one. I didn't come for family drama. Edward's expression tightened. Neither did I. Darius almost laughed, then thought of rent, medicine, the electricity notice on the kitchen table. He looked at the manager, at the guards, at the room full of people who had watched him get humiliated, then back at Edward Sterling. "Fine," he said coldly. 5 minutes. Edward nodded once. "More than I deserve." Conference room A sat on the 32nd floor, overlooking the city. Floor-to-ceiling glass, a table worth more than Darius's apartment, leather chairs softer than anything he had ever touched, water bottles lined perfectly, everything arranged, everything expensive, everything unnecessary. Darius stayed standing. Edward remained near the opposite end of the table, giving distance, trying not to frighten the boy he had already failed. "You can sit. I'm fine. You must be tired." "I said I'm fine." Edward accepted the lie because he recognized it. Lena used to use the same tone. He looked down briefly, then said, "I knew your mother when I was young." Darius scoffed. "You're still old." A tiny smile nearly reached Edward's mouth. "She'd say something similar. Don't talk like you know her." "I did know her." "Did." The word cut sharp. Edward nodded slowly. "Yes." Darius stared out at the skyline. "You rich people always speak in past tense about things you broke." Edward inhaled. "Fair again. I loved her." Darius turned back fast. "No. Yes. You don't get to use that word." Edward's voice lowered. "I know what I forfeited." "Then say that." The room fell quiet. Edward did. "I forfeited her." That landed harder than expected. Darius didn't know why. Maybe because most powerful men rewrite history. This one seemed determined to confess to it. "What happened?" Darius asked finally. Edward looked out the glass. "Fear. That's weak." "Yes. My mother raised me alone because you were scared." Edward met his eyes. "Yes." The honesty slapped harder than excuses would have. Darius paced once around the room. "She told me my father died." Edward looked down. "The man she loved probably did." Darius froze. That sounded exactly like something Lena Brooks would say while washing dishes in silence. He hated that it made sense. "She worked nights," Darius said suddenly. "Did you know that?" Edward shook his head. "She cleaned offices till 2 a.m. Silence. "She skipped meals so I could eat." Silence. "She coughed blood last month and still went to work." Edward's face drained. Darius stepped closer. "Did you know any of that?" "No." "Then stop looking sad." The billionaire absorbed it, because there was nothing else to do. The door opened. Claire Benson entered quickly with a tablet. Elegant suit, sharp eyes. Nathaniel Sterling's chief operations officer, and the kind of woman who could end careers before breakfast. "Sir." Edward looked annoyed. "Not now." "It is now." She handed him the screen. News sites already flashing headlines. Asterisk, asterisk, billionaire, claims fired, cleaner is son, asterisk, 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 Sterling Tower, shock scene goes viral, asterisk, 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 ho is Darius Brooks. Darius frowned. That was fast. Claire glanced at him. The internet eats pain quickly. Edward handed back the tablet. "Handle it." "How?" "Truthfully." Claire blinked once. "That's new." Then she looked at Darius again. Same eyes, she realized. Interesting. She left without another word. Darius sat at last, mostly because his legs were tired, mostly because standing angry uses energy. Hunger steals. Edward noticed. "Have you eaten?" Darius rolled his eyes. "There it is." "What?" "The rich person question. It's a human question." "No. It's the question people ask when they realize too late something was wrong." Edward said nothing. Darius hated that too, because silence from guilty men felt heavier than arguments. "I had toast." Darius lied. Edward looked at him. "You're bad at lying." "My mother says that. She was always excellent at it when protecting others." Darius stared. "How do you know all these small things?" Edward answered quietly. "Because once, small things were my whole world." The boy looked away first. A soft knock came. Then the receptionist entered, pale. "Sir, there's a woman downstairs asking for Darius. She seems unwell." Darius stood instantly. "Mum, she's coughing badly." He was already at the door. Edward followed. The elevator ride down felt too slow. When the doors opened, Lena Brooks was leaning against the front desk, one hand on her chest, the other gripping the counter for balance. Thin coat, tired eyes, beauty sharpened by struggle. And when she saw Edward Sterling, her face changed from pain to something older. "No." Darius rushed to her. "Ma, what are you doing here?" "You left your phone." Then she coughed violently into a cloth. Red stained through. Edward moved forward instinctively. "Lena, don't." One word, still powerful enough to stop him cold. The lobby watched shamelessly. Darius looked between them. "You know each other." Lena laughed once through the pain. Unfortunately, another cough bent her double. Darius panicked. "Mum." Edward caught her before she hit the marble. For one suspended second, the three of them were locked together in the center of the building he built and the life he abandoned. Lena looked up weakly into Edward's face. "You always did know how to make an entrance." Then she fainted in his arms. Everything exploded, reception shouting, security running, someone calling 911, Darius grabbing her hand. "Mum, Mum." Edward lifted her carefully. "Get my car now." "No," Darius snapped. "Ambulance." Edward looked at him, then nodded instantly. "Ambulance." The change did not go unnoticed. For the first time in years, the billionaire took orders from the right person. Darius held his mother's face. "Stay with me." Blood on the cloth, breathing shallow, eyes closed. Edward stood beside them helplessly, a feeling new to him. Powerless wealth. Darius looked up through tears and rage. "This is because she never stopped working." The words struck hard. Then harder came the next. "Where were you while she was dying?" Edward had built towers, bought companies, moved markets, but in the center of his own lobby, beside the woman he lost and the son he never knew, he had no answer. Sirens sounded outside, and Darius realized the truth wasn't just painful, it was expensive, because someone had paid for Edward Sterling's success, and her name was Lena Brooks. Mercy General Hospital had seen blood before. It had seen panic. It had seen families break in waiting rooms and heal in hallways. But even the nurses turned twice when Edward Sterling rushed through the emergency entrance carrying Lena Brooks in his arms. Not because of fame, because rich men rarely carry anything heavy themselves. Darius ran beside him, breathless, terrified. "Mum, Mum, stay with me." Lena's head rested against Edward's shoulder, eyes closed, skin pale, blood still marking the cloth in her hand. A nurse pointed urgently. "Room 3, move." Doctors took over fast. Hands, machines, questions, oxygen mask, curtains drawn. Darius tried to follow. A nurse blocked him gently. "You need to wait. That's my mother, and they're helping her. She was coughing blood." "I know, then let me in." The nurse's voice softened. "If you go in like this, they'll help you too." Only then did Darius realize he was shaking. Hard. He backed away and hit the waiting room wall. Edward stood a few feet away, suit wrinkled, hands stained with Lena's blood. Silent. For the first time in decades, no one around him cared who he was, only whether she lived. Minutes dragged into an hour, then another. Darius sat with elbows on knees, staring at the floor tiles like answers might be hidden between them. Edward remained standing until a nurse finally said, "Sit down before you fall down." He obeyed instantly. That shocked Darius more than anything else that day. "You listen to nurses now," the boy muttered. Edward looked at him. "I should have started years ago." Darius rolled his eyes. Still, a tiny crack appeared in the anger. Then his stomach growled loudly in the quiet room. He stiffened, embarrassed. Edward rose without a word. 5 minutes later, he returned with vending machine crackers, juice, and a stale sandwich. Darius frowned. "I'm not hungry." Edward placed the food beside him. "Neither was I for most of my 20s. What does that mean?" "It means some people starve for food." He looked toward the emergency doors. "Others starve for what matters and don't notice until too late." Darius said nothing. 10 minutes later, he ate the crackers. Edward pretended not to notice. At 2:14 a.m., Dr. Lena Torres entered. Tired eyes, steady voice, hands washed too often. "Family of Lena Brooks." Darius stood instantly. "I'm her son." The doctor nodded. "And you?" Edward answered quietly. "The reason she's angry." Dr. Torres blinked once. "Helpful enough." She checked the chart. "Lena has severe pneumonia, lung damage, internal bleeding worsened by exhaustion, and years of untreated stress." Darius's face went white. "Is she going to die?" The doctor looked at him carefully. "Not tonight." His knees nearly buckled. Edward closed his eyes. Dr. Torres continued. "She needs treatment, rest, and a life very different from the one she's been surviving." Edward stepped forward. "Whatever it costs." The doctor cut him off. "It costs time, care, showing up. Money helps after that." Then she looked at Darius. "You can see her in 5 minutes." Lena woke slowly. Soft machines beeped around her. Darius rushed to the bedside first. "Ma." She smiled weakly. "You look terrible." He laughed through tears. "You almost died, and you still need a haircut." He grabbed her hand and cried harder. Edward stayed near the door, not entering fully, not leaving either. Lena saw him. Stillness entered the room. "You," she whispered. "Yes, you got old. So did my mistakes." That nearly made her smile. Nearly. Darius looked between them. "No more secrets." Lena sighed. "Bossy." "No, tired." She looked at Edward, then at her son, then nodded once. "He is your father." Even hearing it again changed the air. Darius swallowed. "You knew I'd meet him one day?" "No." "Then why hide it?" "Because when I needed courage, She glanced at Edward. I learned men can be temporary. Edward accepted the hit without blinking. Darius turned to him. And you? Edward stepped closer. I chose business over both of you. No excuse, no softening. Lena noticed. He's learned one skill late, she said. Honesty. The next morning, news vans lined the hospital street. Headlines exploded everywhere. Billionaire's secret son found after firing incident. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Poor teen exposes corporate cruelty. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Tochuecho is Darius Brooks. Asterisk, asterisk. Inside the hospital, Claire Benson entered with a tablet and cold efficiency. Sir, the board wants distance from this scandal. Edward didn't look up from Lena's room window. They can have permanent distance. Claire almost smiled. They also want to keep Mr. Collins employed to avoid admitting wrongful dismissal. Now Edward turned. Fire Collins. Already done. The guards. Gone. The receptionist. Crying in HR. Good. Claire nodded. One more thing. Investors are worried you're emotional. Edward looked through the glass at Darius helping Lena drink water. I am. Claire tilted her head. That answer may cost billions. Edward's voice stayed calm. Then it's the cheapest thing I've bought. 3 weeks later, Sterling Tower held a public press conference. Every camera in Brookhaven was there. Employees lined the lobby where Darius had been dragged out. Same marble floors, same front desk, different power. Edward stood at the podium. Lena sat in the front row, stronger now. Darius beside her in a clean suit that finally fit. Mr. Collins and the former guards watched from the back, faces drained. Edward began. This company built towers while failing people at the ground level. The room went silent. A young man was humiliated here for being poor. He looked directly at Darius. My son was fired on his first day because cruelty had become normal. Murmurs spread. Edward continued. Today that ends, he announced. Asterisk scholarship fund for low-income teens. Asterisk paid. This first job training program. Asterisk free meals for all entry-level staff. Asterisk medical support fund for workers' families. Asterisk zero tolerance for discrimination and abuse. Then he paused. One more change. He looked toward Darius. Effective immediately. Darius Brooks joined Sterling Tower as youth program advisor. Darius nearly choked. What? The crowd laughed. Edward smiled slightly. You know what this building needs? Darius muttered. A wrecking ball. Even Lena laughed. After the event ended, father and son stood alone in the empty lobby. The place where humiliation began. The place where truth arrived. Edward looked at the floor. I can't return what I missed. Darius crossed his arms. True. I can't erase what your mother carried. True. I can only ask for a chance. Darius studied him for a long moment. The expensive suit, the tired eyes, the man trying. Then Darius asked, You really gonna keep showing up? Yes. School meetings? Yes. Bad report cards? Yes. I don't get bad report cards. Edward almost smiled. Good. Hospital visits? Yes. Burnt dinners? Yes. Burnt dinners? Yes. Even when mum insults you? Especially then. That got the first real laugh. Darius looked away quickly, then said, You still owe me something. Anything. My first day paycheck. Edward blinked, then laughed harder than he had in years. I'll double it. Triple. Done. Darius nodded, then started walking toward the elevator. Halfway there he stopped. Without turning back, he said casually, Come on, Dad. Edward froze. The single word hit deeper than applause, richer than profit, heavier than regret. He followed his son into the elevator. As the doors closed, employees across the lobby watched the billionaire smiling through tears. Because the richest man in the city had finally gained the one thing money never could buy, a second chance.